All right, first and foremost, we all love chocolate on Halloween, but
Absolutely.
our pets do not love chocolate.
No, well, they like it because it tastes great, but it's very bad for them. They can't digest the things in the chocolate that we can, and so it ends up causing toxicity, symptoms ranging from vomiting, diarrhea, trembling, elevated heart rate, all the way up to seizures, and even potentially fatal doses. However, if you're going to get a toxicity, chocolate's a good one to get because it's very manageable, very treatable with enough time and care.
Okay, so if you do notice that your pet has ingested chocolate, what should you
Mhm.
do? Do you call the vet or do you just go right to the emergency vet?
Yeah, I would call an emergency clinic or just go and call them on the way because the most important thing is decontamination. We want to get that chocolate out of them as quickly as possible, preferably within the first 2 to 4 hours after ingestion, because then that's less for them to their body to have to digest and less toxins in their system. And depending on the dose they ingest and which is the type of chocolate, is it milk, dark, semi-sweet, baker's chocolate? The darker the chocolate, the more toxic it is and the less they need to get a toxic dose, right? But the amount they eat will depend on how toxic the dose is and the treatment they'll require. Some dogs, we just need to make them vomit to clear the chocolate. Other dogs need a couple of days of hospitalization and medications to treat the symptoms.
Yipes. Okay, so we want no chocolate for any of the pets. That's really the
No
best and safest way. Okay, let's talk about other candy. So, sometimes you might think that it's kind of fun to give your dog the candy corns or something like that. That's not chocolate. So, when we're talking about that, how dangerous is that?
Yeah, so different candies have different amounts of, potential toxicities, right? But the sugar and fats and sugars in chocolates and other candies can definitely cause gastroenteritis, which is vomiting and diarrhea, or even pancreatitis, which is inflammation of the pancreas. That's the organ that produces insulin and digestive enzymes for the body. And when they get a really high fatty or sugary meal, that pancreas can get really angry and it can be mild to life threatening case of pancreatitis. And the symptoms might not show up for up to a week after they eat this delicious treat, right? So the best thing to do is just avoid the candies. They don't need them. Like we enjoy them. Our cats and dogs don't need those treats like we do. Give them a Milky Bone or another biscuit instead.
That's right. Give them something that is dog or pet appropriate, right? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right,
Right.
last part of this thing with all of the candies. What about the wrappers? Because that's not even anything that I even thought about.
Yeah, that can definitely cause a problem as well. A lot of dogs will just eat all of the things, the candy, the chocolate, the wrappers, the plastic, all the things. And those wrappers can actually form a ball in their stomach and cause an intestinal foreign body obstruction, which can also be life threatening and require surgery to fix. So we want to keep them away from all of those tasty treats that they might want to eat and also get the wrappers.
I
Don't want
know,
that.
things fall on the floor, and the thing for most everybody says, oh, the dog will get it. Okay, but we don't want the
Right.
dog will get it, right? Okay.
Yeah, we call that our cleanup crew.
Uh-huh, right, but we need to be really careful about what that is. All right, let's talk about glow sticks because that's something that's really common around Halloween time. And you say that cats are prone to chewing on those glow sticks?
Oh yeah, it's just this really enticing thing they like to chew on, and then their sharp teeth poke holes in them. And the fluid inside the glow sticks and the necklaces and the bracelets, they're not particularly toxic, but it will cause a lot of mouth and upper GI irritation. So you might see drooling, gagging, those kinds of things. So it's not life-threateningly toxic, but it can cause some really significant symptoms and irritation. So
All
it's
right.
just best to avoid that.
All right, so let's now jump to the night of Halloween and how to make a safe space for our pets on the night of Halloween. There are some pets who love to see all the kids at the door, and then there are
Uh-huh.
some pets that are just going to be going crazy that there's knocking or bell ringing or any kind of sounds.
Absolutely. My first recommendation is keep your pets safe by creating a safe place for them. Whether it's their kennel or a dark, quiet room away from the front door. That would be my first recommendation because with that door opening and closing, they could zip out and run away and you wouldn't even know, and or you might not be able to get them back. If your dog has a lot of anxiety, I recommend, and the doorbell sets them off, maybe set up your candy station outside in your driveway so that the trick-or-treaters aren't ringing the doorbell. And every time that doorbell rings, the dogs are barking and, getting all ramped up. If your dog has anxiety, you can also try a thunder shirt. I have one for one of our dogs. She has noise and thunder anxiety, and it works great. It really helps her. So thunder shirts are helpful. If your dog has a really high anxiety, you might want to talk to your regular vet about some medication to help them relax the night of, right? A little anti-anxiety med or something. Those are some good recommendations. And another very important thing to help keep them safe, with that door opening and closing and that high risk of them getting out, cats and dogs both, make sure they have a collar or a harness with proper up-to-date tags with your contact information. So if they do get out, they can be returned to you, and make sure they're microchipped and their microchip information is up to date. Those are the best ways to get them back to you if they should slip out.
That's right. If you've got a microchip in your pet, remember that you had to go online and you had to put the information in. So make sure that you've done that. I just bought an Apple AirTag for my dog just in case, because I wanted to know where she was all the time.
That's awesome.
That's a helicopter
that's
pet
great.
mom right there. Okay. How about the costumes for Halloween? Because we all love to dress our pets up in costumes. They don't seem to love it, but we like to do it.
Yeah, because it's so cute. There are a couple really important things to remember. One, make sure that it doesn't obscure their vision or their breathing or their movement. And if they're in them for a while, you don't want them to be cutting into their armpits or their necks or anything like that. So make sure it's a good fit. Make sure that if there are metal parts, they're not chewing them, because some of those metals, those costume metals like zinc and lead, can be toxic if ingested. Also, keep a close eye on them, because you don't want them to chew up and eat those pieces of costume, which could cause a foreign body. And then we're back to, maybe they need surgery. So those are some important tips for keeping them safe. And remember too, don't use hair dye for people on pets. Even though it says non-toxic, safe for humans, it still might be toxic to cats or dogs. So don't be tempted to, dye your pet with hair dye.
Okay, what about the, well, since you mentioned it, let's just go there. What about like the spray color that you can also put on your hair that is, that washes out?
Yeah,
Don't put that on the dog either.
Yeah, I would avoid those, especially for, say, cats with respiratory issues. The aerosol could definitely, cause them to have a little bit of inflammation in their lungs or an asthma attack. So I would just avoid all those things.
Who's the friend that you have right there?
This is my cat Nimbus.
Okay.
He wanted to make an appearance today.
Of course, right. All right, we are now
man.
taking your text questions from here on out. So we are going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with your questions next.